I was in the military. I understand the need for taxes, but I don't want to pay a penny more than I have to.
So glad you're with us on The Outcome is Income. Brad Johansen with Chance Robinson, Strong Point Financial. We're talking about all of the changes that we're seeing now in the world and how we deal with the what if. We talk about the plan. I want to get into some of the strategies, Chance, with what you do. And it usually begins with income, because once we, as you say, we get closer to that retirement age, now we've got to figure out where our income's coming from when the paychecks stop.
Yeah, absolutely. So, sitting down and really putting this plan together, let me walk you through the process a little bit.
Please.
Because a lot of times people will ask, well, what does this look like? Are you going to try to force me to buy it? That is not how this works. My initial meeting is to sit down and talk with you and get an understanding or a bird's eye view of where you're at right now. How can I help you? What things am I going to kind of pick apart? And this is where you're leaning into advisor. And if you're sitting with an advisor anywhere, why are you sitting with them in the first place? Because there's no substitute for experience. Like we talked about at the end of the last segment, I've been doing this going on 20 years now. I plan probably 200 to 250 retirements a year. I've planned thousands of retirements over the years. So you learn a thing or two. If you've done anything in your life, regardless of what it is, for 20 years, you start to learn things. You start to learn where the potholes are at or where the headaches are going to pop up at, and you can plan around those things. So when I sit down, I need to understand your situation. Let's, have a conversation and let me see how I can actually help. Once we get to that point, I'm going to say, okay, let me sit down with this, and with all of the experience that I've had and all of the planning that I've done, let me sit down and really formulate and build out a plan. The next time that we meet, I'm going to show you that plan and introduce you to all of the recommendations and concepts. Then I want you to take it home and do your own due diligence. At that point, if you decide that you want to start implementing this plan, then we can get together and I'll hold your hand the rest of the way and we'll implement that plan the way that it needs to be. So that's kind of the process, just so people understand what that looks like. Now, when we get into the details, kind of getting into the weeds, I want to understand all kinds of different aspects that you may not have heard from other advisors, because I am looking at this from a holistic point of view. The big thing is we have a team that we work with that has tax professionals and estate planning attorneys and everything that's on the team. This way the right hand knows what the left hand's doing. We're planning this thing together. So when I sit down and look at the situation and I'm asking about your home and equity, I'm thinking about, that equity that you have, is that an attachable asset in a long-term care situation? How do I protect that? My job as an advisor, my top two concerns is always, first and foremost, how do I protect you? How do I make sure when you're ready to retire, you stay retired? Not that you couldn't go back to work. I don't want you to ever to be in a position to be forced to have to.
Right.
And then from there, I was in the military. I understand the need for taxes, but I don't want to pay a penny more than I have to. How do I get you to the lowest tax bracket, pay the least amount of taxes legally possible? That's always my second concern, because taxes is a loss any way you look at it. And I know from my experience, the losses hurt you more than the gains help you. So it's about preservation, distribution. How do I plan this out correctly? So I'm going to dig into these situations. Once I understand that, now I can start building out a plan and saying, what is your goals? What do you want to do in retirement? What does it cost you to be you? What does that look like? What do you want to accomplish? Once I understand that, I can build a plan around this. Then it's smooth sailing from that point.
Are you seeing most people who are coming in, who listen to you, see you on TV, say, I'm with an advisor, nobody's ever talked to me about taxes?
Yeah.
Why do you talk so much about taxes and what it is? Is it the greatest fear, or maybe for a lot of people, the greatest unknown?
Correct.
Going into their retirement, that they go, oh, holy cow, this isn't all my money?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, like, I'm never one to kind of throw an advisor under the bus or say that, they're not doing their job. Like, the reality of this is you have different advisors that focus on different areas of the business. Your advisor could have done a great job for you, and that was in the accumulation phase of your life. I specialize in retirement and pre-retiree planning. When you're within that, I'd say 10 or less years of getting to that point that I'm going ready to retire, this is where I specialize. I know it takes a different strategy and a different layout to accomplish what that looks like. Not that they've done anything wrong. And what I have to remind people of all the time is they could have done a great job, but I wouldn't go to my general practitioner if I needed heart surgery. No, I want to go to a specialist that deals with that exactly. So I'm a specialist in retirement planning and what that looks like. It's not a personal decision. I always remind people, you have to do what's best for you, not what's best for me, not what's best for that advisor or this institution or this bank or this insurance company. You do what's best for you. Look at your situation and say, hey, am I ready for this part of my life? Maybe I just got to a point like, hey, you've done a great job, but I'm headed in a different direction now. I've got to change that.
Okay, I may do 250 of these a year. I've done thousands of them over the time, and yet you constantly tell me not one of them is like the other.
Oh, no, not at all.
And the puzzle pieces start to fit together in a different way. You talked about this. Look, we're going to do multiple meetings as we go through to talk about this to make sure that you're ready. We're not doing it like that because you need to understand your plan has to be in place because maybe you haven't talked about what retirement looks like for you.
Correct.
I may know what my necessities are, but how am I going to spend this other lifestyle part of that? You work that into all of these plans.
It has to be. The problem with the blanket advice approach is, that's so generalized for the bulk or the mass of people. But when you start really digging into these strategies, like there's the 4% rule, right? If I have this bucket of money and I can draw 4% off of for the rest of my life, I should never run out of money. Is that 4% rule taken into account? Am I drawing it from Roth? Am I drawing it from tax-free? Am I drawing it from qualified? Is it taking into account the taxes? A lot of that rule doesn't apply to all of these different situations. Your situation is not like your spouse's. It's not like your neighbor's. It's not like the same person. It has to be individually planned because your situation is completely different from everybody else's. So when I'm looking at these situations, this is where I say, okay, you've got a strategy here, or maybe you have this tax ticking time bomb that you've created because you've saved up all of this money. And now at some point, they're going to force you to start taking money out and pay taxes on this. How do I get this money back to you paying the least amount of taxes on it? There's all kinds of strategies to accomplish that, but your situation is definitely unique.
So if there are all kinds of strategies on that, and you said this a little bit earlier, that taxes are on sale right now as you run through this, that people go, what do you mean taxes? My taxes stink right now. Taxes are on sale in a certain period of time, and we've talked about legislative risk that we've had as well. When are they going to change the rules? Well, we know, at least at this point, the rules are supposed to change at the end of 2025.
Correct.
Taxes being on sale give you an opportunity right now?
100%. And don't get me wrong, because there's a lot of advice out there. Like, I know it's very popular right now to just do a Roth conversion. But what if I do a Roth conversion and I push myself into a higher tax bracket? What if I'm trying to do this on my own and I didn't think about when I do that Roth conversion, it's going to penalize my Social Security. I'm gonna have to pay higher taxes on Social Security now. It might increase my Medicare premiums. It might, jeopardize what benefits that I am able to receive in other areas, or it might increase my prescription drug or my Part D of Medicare. Like, there's all these nuances of why these things interconnect, which is even more to the point of why it has to be a holistic plan. You have to sit down with somebody who understands all of these pieces and kind of goes back to the point that I was making. There's just no substitute for experience. Mm-hmm. Once you've done this hundreds and thousands of times, you know these things to look for. You know where the potholes are going to pop up. So you know how to navigate and strategize around this. I'm a DIYer like the rest of them. I might lay the stones on the front of my fireplace, but I'm not going to go out and try to build an extra room on my house out of cinder blocks. Like, I know when to call in a professional when I need to. More people spend time planning out for a vacation than they do for a retirement. You might not even know the questions to ask. There's so many of these nuances that go into this, the rules around Social Security and taxes and planning. You got to get a plan, a true plan.
Chance, your point is so great that we start thinking about what's it going to be like to be on vacation? Well, what's it going to be like to be on vacation for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years? You got that plan in place? Have you talked to an expert about putting this whole thing together with the income, with the investments, with your health care, with your taxes, with a legacy plan? Have you thought about all of this? Would you like some help? How about an insider review? Chance does that, has done it hundreds and now thousands of times, and it's never the same twice. Let's do it for you. 855-348-3018. Don't waste any more time. Let's put together a plan for you at Strong Point Financial that takes you through retirement so your money lasts until your last breath. 855-348-3018. We'll be right back.